Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Clearing the Haze. I'm your host, Chuck Marty, and today we're going to dive into a major development that's going on that's going to impact business owners, supervisors, DERs, and anyone working in the safety sensitive industry, whether you're ready for it or not. We're talking about the new federal bill that has been pushed through to ban nearly all hemp-derived THC and CBD products. Yes, CBD, Delta 8, Delta 10, THC drinks, edibles, entire sector, all of it. And the biggest problem, most people have no idea this is happening. This isn't a rumor. This isn't fear mongering. This is language buried inside a government funded bill that Congress is moving and has moved forward on, and it has passed. And the entire hemp derived product industry could disappear within a year because of this. Now, I just had clients that came in yesterday at my facility in Denver, and they were already talking about this. Some of them were up in arms. Others were really confused because you see, we're still talking about the reclassification of marijuana from a Schedule 1 to possibly a Schedule 3. But yet, in that push and that coming forward, we have this that has come up. And so it's caused a lot of confusion with people not understanding what is going on and what will happen. Now, for me and what we do in this industry, there are a lot of positives coming from this. And I'll explain that as we go along. But we need to understand this is a hot button topic. I've already seen 7 different articles that have been written on this in the last 48 hours regarding this. So it's causing a lot of vibration within the marijuana industry, and people are scrambling. Just this morning, before I started this podcast, I found that there's over 80,000 lawsuits that have been going through to try and stop this and to get this reconsidered. So it is a hot button topic. And so today we're going to break down all of this and what's happening, why it matters, and what you as a leader must be doing to protect your organization. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a political shift. This is a safety shift. This is a compliance shift. And this is one of those moments where being proactive will save you a lot of headache down the road. So grab your coffee, buckle up, and let's clear some haze. What we're going to talk about right now is just the basics. What is exactly going on with the CB and Delta 8 issue? According to several congressional summaries, the industry reports, Congress is on the verge of making this happen. And at the time we're coming through with this, it has already happened. It has gone through the House and it's been adopted. So almost every hemp-derived THC product on the market is going to be affected by this. This was tucked away quietly into a Senate-passed government funding bill. And that is how it went forward. So here's what the language essentially does. It's going to ban intoxicating hemp-derived cannabinoids, including Delta 8, Delta 10, THC beverages, edibles, and vapes. It even bans what's called intermediate hemp-derived cannabidiol products, which is the entire chain of production. And despite congressional talking points, they say it preserves CBD. The truth is, the industry's legal teams don't buy it. Some are arguing even non-intoxicating CBD could fall under this ban depending on how the definitions are enforced. So industry leaders are calling this an extinction level event. And that's not my phrase. That's from the executives who helped build this $30 billion industry that is being expected to hit those numbers by 2030. Now, John Garrity, he's the CEO of Crescent Canna. He put it bluntly, 95% of sales in the hemp market have what are now disqualifying levels of THC. The entire hemp beverage industry is gone. The THC market, the edible market, the inhalables, it's all gone. Now, think about that for just a second. We're not talking about trimming around the edges. We're talking about wiping out about nearly everything on the shelf in a gas station and a convenience store, and especially online. And why is that? It's because Congress is saying they never intended for hemp legalization to unleash a booming THC industry outside of regulated cannabis states. So how are they trying to put the toothpaste back into the tube? And if history has taught us anything, that never goes smoothly. So here's where I need every business owner and safety leader to lean in with me on this. This isn't just the hemp industry problem. This is a workplace safety issue. This is a compliance issue. This is an HR and liability issue. So let me break this down from a practical standpoint. First, many employees are already using CBD and Delta-8 daily. And a lot of people don't think these are drugs. They think of them more as supplements or relaxation aids. They think CBD is totally harmless and it's legal. When this ban goes into effect, the product they're using puts them into a brand new legal category. And your company policies, they have got to reflect that. Now, what you can expect is an increase in positive drug tests, and a real increase. Between panic buying, black market substitutes, mislabeled products, employees are going to be ingesting higher THC levels without even knowing it. If you're not in a DOT-regulated industry, this is going to hit fast. Now, there's a lot of reasonable suspicion encounters that are going to go up with this. So let's just be honest. These products can impair people. I've had supervisors tell me, Chuck, they didn't tell me they were just taking CBD, but what I saw was definitely impairment. And that's because Delta-8 and Delta-10 were legal loopholes, not safe alternatives. Now, politics have been written, and it was written before 2021, and those are outdated. You need a policy review. You need an updated language review, and you need to treat hemp-derived THC the same way you would treat marijuana. Now, because this is passing, you're going to need to see employees thinking in a different manner. It's legal for one more year. And so I'm going to stock up is going to be what they're thinking. And suddenly you have your supervisors that are now dealing with more of the red glossy eyes, delayed reaction times, slurred speech, lethargy, confusion, mood shifts. And this is why reasonable suspicion training, it isn't optional anymore. It's going to be essential because you're going to need to recognize these signs and symptoms of impairment in the workplace. Now, there is politics behind this ban. There's politics in it being legalized. There's politics through and through with this. Back in 2018, when Congress passed the Farm Bill and it legalized hemp with less than 3% Delta-9 THC, there seems to be something that was just straightforward with that, correct? You're definitely wrong. Chemists soon realized that you could convert CBD into Delta-8 and Delta-10, cannabinoids that absolutely can cause impairment. And because of the way the law was written, those products existed in a legal gray area. Senator Mitch McConnell, the same guy who championed the hemp bill in 2018, is now saying this isn't what he intended. He wants to shut the door to these intoxicating products that we're seeing now on the market. Now, industry leaders say that McConnell is basically setting fire to the very crop he once encouraged America to grow. And now you have Ron Paul, who's pushed back against earlier attempts to tighten up these hemp regulations. But this time, the restrictive language made it back in. And here we are. This is what happens when laws are written with loopholes big enough to drive a Mack truck through. No pun intended for my trucker industries that are listening to this, but this is what happens. So what does this mean for safety and public health? Let's step away from politics for just a moment and talk safety. That's my world. This is your world. And that's the world we live in. Over the last few years, Delta 8 and Delta 10 have become wildly popular because it's cheap, it was easy to get access to, and it was not very regulated, if at all. Now, I want you to think about that. When you're talking impairment, unregulated is not a word you want anyone or anywhere near you in your workforce. We saw kids who have accidentally ingested gummies. We've seen ER visits that have increased. We've seen drivers swearing that CBD was safe and then failing their drug tests. And then we saw products being sold with zero verification of what was actually inside the product. From a safety standpoint, this is a disaster waiting to happen. So yes, the crackdown is harsh maybe, but from a safety sensitive perspective, this was inevitable. Now, what employees have got to do right now, let's shift to that for a moment. It's something that has to be actionable, something that we're going to have to go through. Now the bill passed, odds are high, and that's what you need to do right now is to protect yourself and your employees and your company. You need to have some education with them. You need to update your drug and alcohol policy immediately. You need to remove outdated CBD carve-outs. You need to clarify that all hemp-derived THC products are prohibited, okay? And you need to communicate this early and clearly with your employees. Don't let this blindside them. A simple memo saves you from "no one told me," and that's going to come later if you don't do that. Schedule a reasonable suspicion training and refresher. You see, your supervisors, they need to know exactly what to look for. Impairment signs are behavioral, they're physical, and they're cognitive. Now, you have to work with your TPA or your drug testing provider. Make sure your testing panels are accurate. Make sure your employees understand the consequences for positive tests. And then you're going to have to prepare some questions, and a lot of them. Here are just the top ones that you're going to hear. Is my CBD lotion, is it still okay? That's going to depend on the final rule and all the wording that's in that. But you're needing right now to assume that it's at risk. What if I bought it legally before the ban? That doesn't matter. Impairment is still impairment, okay? So can I still use Delta 8 at home if I'm not at work? Not if it shows up in your drug test, and it will. And then you got to document everything. Policies, notifications, supervisor's notes. It all matters. And this is one of those moments where proactive leadership separates protected companies from vulnerable ones. I've got some predictions for the next year that I really want to talk about and bring into perspective right now. Let me share with you what I believe we're going to see based on my background, having been in law enforcement, being in this industry right now, and my work with drug testing and compliance. Everything I've seen over the last decade is what I want to talk about right now. Positive drug tests will spike, okay? Especially in the first 6 months. Black market hemp THC products are going to explode. When you ban something with a high demand that people don't want to stop using, they just go underground. They're going to look for it somewhere else. This confusion is going to skyrocket. Employees don't read federal bills. They rely on you, their employer, to tell them what it is and what they cannot do and what they can do. Understand that there's going to be a lot of liability for employers, and it's going to increase, especially after you have incidents. Supervisor training will be the make or break factor for a lot of companies out there. You either prepare your supervisors now, or you're going to pay the price later. And that's just the facts of life on this. Now, we've been talking about this for a little bit. I'm going to have more on this topic as it comes out, but just because of the urgency, how much we're seeing in the action of this, I needed to get something out to you guys. So where does this all just leave us right now? It leaves us with a responsibility. a responsibility to communicate, a responsibility to train, and it's a responsibility to stay ahead of that risk that's going to impact people that we lead and the communities that we serve. This shift, this ban, it's not just about CBD or Delta 8 or even edibles or gummies. It's about clarity. It's about safety. And it's about making sure we're not caught flat footed when the rules change, because they are going to change. All right. If you need help updating your policies, educating your employees, or training your supervisors on reasonable suspicion and impairment recognition, you need to reach out to Colorado Mobile Drug Testing. Reach out to me, Chuck at chuckmarting.com. And that's exactly what we do. We help with reasonable suspicion, the training, recognizing, and understanding. You can even purchase my book that came out 4 months ago called Mastering the Impairment Code. It's leadership strategies to recognize, respond to, and resolve drug use in the workplace. And if you need help updating those policies, that's what we're here for. This is exactly what I've been doing and what I will continue to do. You don't have to navigate this alone. Now, understand that there's going to be lots more questions that are coming, and I expect more questions to come. There's a couple ways that you can get a hold of me with those questions for me to include in future episodes. First, you can email me at chuck@chuckmarting.com, or you can email me at helpclearthehaze@gmail.com. Understand that this is an ongoing thing that's going to happen. As new language, new perspectives come out, things like that, things that we're going to see that are going to affect this, I will come out with another episode on Clearing the Haze. I'm envisioning doing a Q&A session with some industry leaders to answer a lot of these questions that you may have coming in, so that we have a more clear direction to give our employees, our clients, and those that we're involved with in the community, so they understand clearly what they can and can't do and what they can expect because of this passing. Now, thank you for joining me today on Clearing the Haze. Share this episode today with another business owner, another safety leader, or even a DER who needs to hear this and understand what's coming. So, also, if you haven't already, go to masteringtheimpairmentcode.com. There you'll find my book, some information on it, and where to buy it and order it. It's going to be an awesome reference tool, especially when you're looking at things like this as a leader, and it will give you the groundwork that you need to be able to recognize, respond to, and resolve drug impairment in your workplace. So, until next time, when we bring you another episode of Clearing the Haze, stay safe, stay informed, and keep clearing the haze. Take care.